Something's coming up the plumbing, poor Luigi's in a bind. Giant turtles out to get him, crabs are right behind. Fighter flies, timber shites, they're all coming out the pipes. Mario, where are you? Banana.
What's this? Dear Luigi, I've taken a trip to Mario Land because Wario's been causing havoc once again. I have 6 golden coins to find, and I'm unsure when I'll return. Your brother, Mario. Looks like I have to rescue the Mushroom Kingdom whether I like it or not!
You are now watching Nabbit.
When I was in elementary school, we were taught about recycling and going green. I made an effort to go green, but I may have misunderstood what going green actually meant. I got New Super Mario Bros. In May of 2010. I absolutely loved the game. It was one of the most popular games at my school. I was new to the Mario series, and a friend told me to hold L and R while starting up New Super Mario Bros. And lo and behold, I was introduced to the lean, green, ghost-catching machine. Every time there's an opportunity to play as Luigi, I immediately jump to it. He somehow manages to make Mario games even better. Originally, he was only a palette swap of Mario, but as the series evolved, Luigi gained his signature look and got an identity of his own. Luigi is a modest guy and is always willing to help his brother out, even if it's not in his best interest. He may be a bit cowardly and insecure, but the reality is, he's actually the superior brother. Luigi is easily one of the most popular and well-liked Mario characters, and because of this, he got his own series being Luigi's Mansion. I always consider Luigi's Mansion to be the first game to have Luigi as a protagonist, but being a plumber, Luigi had to go through a lot of trash before finding treasure. The first game to have Luigi as a protagonist is none other than Luigi's Hammer Toss. This was an LCD game, very similar to the Game & Watch. You play as Luigi juggling hammers, making sure they don't fall to the ground, very similar to Ball. Oddly, when you start the game, you'll hear the beginning of La Cucaracha. You think that's bad? Remember the time I sang La Cucaracha while Luigi was juggling hammers? Am I missing something here? There are 2 subjects you don't bring up to Mario fans. March 31st, and Mario is missing. During the early to mid-90s, a series of educational Mario games were released. Mario's Missing is often considered to be one of the worst Mario games. It's not because it's educational either. I grew up playing the Leapster, and the games were fun, while also being educational. I also love geography, and seeing real-world locations in Mario games is always very cool. But all Mario is Missing is a collection of tests disguised as a game, but the worst thing about the game is the sneaky marketing surrounding it. Mario is Missing looks just like Super Mario World, and the title doesn't imply in any way that it's educational. Mario teaches typing, well that's obviously educational, but since there was none to limited internet when the game released, I'm sure many were tricked into buying the game, because the idea of a Luigi game is an intriguing and great concept. Considering when Mario is Missing released, I'm sure many pictured it to be a 2D platformer starring Luigi, and the good news is that nearly 2 decades later, players would finally get the Mario is Missing that they dreamed for. The best anniversary celebration Nintendo has ever done is easily the Year of Luigi. They went all out celebrating for the Great Green One, with many Luigi modes and Easter eggs in games, and even quite a few games starring Luigi as a protagonist. Of course, there was Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, but we also got Dr. Luigi, Luigi Brothers, and most notably, New Super Luigi U. New Super Luigi U is an interesting case. It was originally a paid DLC expansion for New Super Mario Bros. U, but it also got a standalone physical release. Most consider it to be its own game. Revisiting New Super Mario Bros. U proved to be challenging. I felt many different emotions replaying the game, and most of them weren't good. I must admit, I'm a little intimidated revisiting New Super Luigi U. New Super Mario Bros. U turned out to be way less enjoyable than I remembered it. So the question is New Super Luigi U the Mario's missing that should have been, or should this game end up missing? In the early 2010s, Nintendo started experimenting with DLC. New Super Mario Bros. 2 was one of the first Nintendo games, and the very first Mario game, to get DLC with the additional Coin Rush packs. Initially, New Super Mario Bros. U was going to do something similar. Ideas of additional Boost Rush packs were discussed, but once it was found out the developers forgot Boost Rush existed, they decided to do something different. An expansion with more challenging levels was what they went with. Originally, it was designed with Mario in mind, but Luigi became the focus when the year Luigi was brought up at a meeting. New Super Luigi U initially released as a DLC expansion for New Super Mario Bros. U in June of 2013 for $20 USD. It also saw a standalone physical release in August of 2013 for $30 USD. The physical copy of the game is easily the coolest looking Wii U game. It came in a nice green case, letting you know that it's something truly special. This is something every Luigi fan should have. Eventually though, the game came bundled with New Super Mario Bros. U, starting with the Mario & Luigi Wii U bundle, which is the one I got. It was also included in New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe on the Nintendo Switch. This game defined the year Luigi, and let's see if it's still something to celebrate about. The story is identical to New Super Mario Bros. U. Bowser and the Koopalings take over Peach's castle, and you'll have to rescue her and regain the castle. But there is a difference. Mario is nowhere to be found. He is referenced with his hat being on the table, but I'm guessing he either went to Sarasa Land or Mario Land. Or he forgot to use a 1-up mushroom. This is the first game where Mario doesn't appear, but Luigi is present. Other than that, the story remains the same. Some suggested that Daisy should have replaced Peach, but I disagree. You only had to rescue Daisy once in Super Mario Land. Since then, her priorities are now kart racing, playing sports, partying, and spending time with Luigi. All Peach is a tool who doesn't care about Mario in the slightest. Personally, I think the story would be even better if Luigi was just bored and decided he'd fight with Bowser because he had nothing better to do that day. But as with any 2D Mario or Luigi game, the story doesn't matter. What matters most is the gameplay. The world map is the same one used in New Super Mario Bros. U. All the locations are identical, and if a level had a secret exit in Mario U, the Luigi U equivalent will as well. I wouldn't mind if the levels remained in the same spots, but I do think the world map would have benefited from different theming. It wouldn't have to be a major overhaul, but something like the change from spring to autumn in Super Mario World would have been very nice. But despite the world map being identical, the levels themselves are completely new. At first glance, the game looks identical to New Super Mario Bros. U, but looks can be deceiving. Luigi has been playable in every New Super Mario Bros. Game, and his abilities were identical to Mario, but here, Luigi gains back his signature abilities, being his high jump and poor traction. Luigi's abilities originated in Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels. In that game, it was near impossible to control Luigi well. It's understandable he needed to have poor traction, so he's not overpowered, but it's so bad it's not even worth playing as him. But here, the controls are much better. His traction is far more manageable. The higher jump also makes the squirrel suit and the despicable mini mushroom much more useful, but the physics work better here because the levels take account for them. You may think the levels are just an extension of New Super Mario Bros. U, but New Super Luigi U was able to take one of the most trivial aspects in Mario games and turn it into the defining mechanic. When playing a Mario game, you likely forget two things exist: the timer and the score. These archaic concepts have somehow remained in Mario games. Games in the early 80s were all about getting a high score, and a timer was necessary to have. That way people wouldn't hog the machine. But with the NES, games became more advanced, focusing more on the adventure and story instead of a high score. I honestly cannot think of a modern 2D platformer that I played that has a timer, other than the Mario games. It's unnecessary because under normal circumstances, you'll complete a level with plenty of time left. So in 2D Mario games, it's pointless, but this isn't a Mario game. It's Luigi time. As long as it's within 100 seconds, this drastically changes the feeling of the game. The limited time is only one of the aspects that sets Luigi U apart from Mario games. The biggest strength in New Super Luigi U is the level design. The levels are short, but there is rarely ever idle time, and there's always something going on. There are a great amount of enemies and obstacles. You'll have to stay alert at all times. Accounting for the time limit, the levels are designed to be shorter, but even though the levels are short, they manage to be memorable. The first stage in Layer Cake Desert starts off with the skeleton of an ox. I'm wondering if that's referencing Bowser's origin, or maybe it's just a coincidence. You'll have to run through the stage avoiding the spikes thrown by the character that deserved to be in Smash more than anyone else. Many of my favorite levels in the game are in the beach world, Sparkling Waters. The first level has you condemn a resort filled with Huckets. Considering Luigi's first game, he's a natural at this. And the castle stage doesn't go for the cliche lava theme, but it's an outdoor and underwater castle. It also features the strongest Mario enemy ever, King Bill. All the stages in New Super Luigi U are memorable. New Super Mario Bros. U was essentially a rehash of New Super Mario Bros. Wii, but New Super Luigi U, on the other hand, has its own identity and feels distinct. What's interesting is that despite the creativity, it doesn't introduce any new power-ups, and the only new enemy is a larger Eep Cheep. But even though Luigi U doesn't introduce new power-ups, the Propeller Mushroom and Penguin Suit are given a lot more use. Since they only appeared in the Special World Toad Houses in Mario U, they were pretty much designated to the final levels or Star Coin cleanup. But here, you'll often find the Propeller Mushroom in enemy courses, and the Penguin Suit has levels designed with it in mind. The main problem with New Super Mario Bros. U is that even though it has a few new ideas, they're either never lived up to the full potential or aren't that interesting. But in New Super Luigi U, the concepts of shorter and more challenging levels is lived up to the full potential. The time adds pressure, but the levels themselves are more challenging. The obstacle and enemy placements are natural, and if you lose, well, that's on you. For those who like exploration, the star coins are still present, but you'll have to manage your time searching for them. Their function is identical to how it is in New Super Mario Bros. Wii and U, where they'll unlock levels in the special world. Occasionally, you will find star coins hidden in cryptic places, but overall, they're placed in places that make sense. So far we've established that New Super Luigi U may have a lot in common with its older brother, but it manages to make the most out of its new concepts with excellently designed and more challenging levels that are memorable. But if there's one thing Mario and Luigi U have in common, it's the presentation. So you think. The general presentation is identical to New Super Mario Bros. U. The world themes and soundtrack are exactly the same, but believe it or not, it manages to be significantly better. There is a far greater attention to detail in New Super Luigi U. As I stated before, Layer Cake Desert has the ox skeleton, but in Acorn Plains, the ground is different with a green floral design. Rainbows are also incorporated into some levels, but where the presentation shines the most is with the hidden Luigis found in every level. They don't affect the gameplay, but it's always cool finding them. Some are 8-bit sprites, but others are cleverly hidden in levels. Some of my favorites are the Topiary Luigi in Acorn Plains, the Luigi Ice Sculpture, and a giant Luigi sprite from Super Mario Advance 2. I won't spoil them, considering that that's part of the fun, but even though the presentation is mostly the same as Mario U, it manages to be far more creative, and the improvements are nice, even if they're subtle. I would've liked the game to have unique themes and a new soundtrack, but considering it's an expansion of New Super Mario Bros. U, it was fair to expect the games to be similar in that regard. When it comes to the content, New Super Luigi U falls into a gray area. In most circumstances, New Super Luigi U is bundled with New Super Mario Bros. U because it was designed as DLC, but if you manage to find the standalone physical version on the Wii U, here's what to expect. What you see is what you get. There are no additional modes, meaning no coin battle, no boost rush, and no challenge mode. But the game does have co-op multiplayer, just like most New Super Mario Bros. Games. Mario is not playable, but why would you want to play as Mario when Buckenberry and a la Gold are playable? Luigi's physics are also applied to them. I will admit, it's very bizarre seeing them jump like Luigi, but it does make sense so other players wouldn't have an edge. But if a player happens to be suckish at the game, they can have an edge. Rather than a third Toad, Nabbit makes his playable debut, and he has different abilities too. He has the same physics as Luigi, but has the ability not to get damaged by enemies. This also means he cannot power up, ride Yoshi, or throw items. Oddly enough, He still appears as a villain because the Nabbit chases are still present. You can also play as him in single player by holding ZL before starting a level. The reason why Nabbit is playable and is invincible is likely due to time constraints. Designing powered up forms for him and creating new animations would have slowed down development time. As for how I feel about his inclusion, I'm a bit mixed. I love Nabbit, and being able to play as him is cool, but when it comes to the invincibility, I don't like it. I will always be honest in my reviews, and I need to address my thoughts on easy modes in games. Most games nowadays are far too easy, mainly due to the game design itself. These easy modes are only part of the problem. I am not a fan of when things such as super guides, the white Tanuki suit, or any invincibility mode are used to complete a game. I will admit, it's fun to use cheat codes to mess around in a game I already beat. But if you play as Nabbit to beat the game, you're cheating yourself more than anyone else. Trial and error creates skill in players, and it's what gaming is all about. In a new Super Luigi U or any Mario game, the levels are the experience. These are usually optional modes, but unfortunately, one player will always have to play as Nabbit if there are 4 players. The option for a third Toad would have been very nice. It's also a bit jarring that the issue of having Nabbit playable and also the villain wasn't addressed. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze had Funky Kong as a shop owner, but if you play as him, the shop is owned by a new character, Talks the Parrot. Even something as basic as a silly and new villain called Wabbit to replace Nabbit in the chases would have been fine. It's not a big deal, but it's worth bringing up. And if you're wondering if the game saw any changes in New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, there are a few, but most don't help the game. You can play as any character you want in the main campaign, but if you're playing with 4 players, not just 1, but 2 players will have an edge. This is because they'll have to play as Toadette and Nabbit, so unless you want the extra challenge mode Adrift, just stick to the Wii U one. The game may not have additional modes, but considering the standalone release was only $30 USD, it wasn't a huge issue. The game is complete and is highly replayable. It doesn't need to rely on quote-unquote free content updates like so many of the games on the best game console of all time, the Switch, do. I've mostly praised New Super Luigi U, but there are a few criticisms I have. The game is more challenging, but the bosses are still too easy. The bosses are identical to the ones found in Mario U, and defeating them is the same. Even something as basic as requiring 5 hits to defeat them would have been appreciated. And while I don't think Daisy needed to be rescued, seeing King Boo instead of Bowser would have been cool, alongside his minions. Most issues I had with New Super Mario Bros. U would also technically apply here, but they don't impact the experience for me as much, considering the context of how the game was released. New Super Luigi U is an expansion of Mario U, but New Super Mario Bros. U was supposed to be the brand new Mario game launched to showcase the Wii U, so it's a bit of an apples and oranges situation. Wait, oranges? Okay, moving on to the final verdict. So far we've established that New Super Luigi U may look similar to Mario U, but the experience is radically different. The presentation is enhanced with more vibrant colors, and the hidden Luigis are so much fun to find, and the game itself is a blast to play and is highly replayable. So what's the verdict? No need for an artsy ranking this time. New Super Luigi U is without a doubt, no questions asked, an absolute treasure. I'd go as far to say, it's emerald-encrusted treasure. Even though the year of Luigi concluded, every time I play this game, it feels like a celebration of the year of Luigi once again. This is absolutely what Mario's Missing should have been. Not only that, but the game is actually better than New Super Mario Bros. U. The game is much faster paced, and it has its own identity. I'd love to see another Luigi-centered platformer in the future, and considering next year marks a decade since the year of Luigi, I'm hoping for a sequel. Even though New Super Luigi U is the latest New Super Mario Bros. Game, our journey has only started. I'll be taking a look at the newer Super Mario Bros. Games next, and determining if they're the 2D Mario games of my dreams. There will also be a video showcasing not only my thoughts, but my friend Starchronix' thoughts on New Super Mario Bros. Wii. So what do you guys think? Do you love New Super Luigi U as much as I do? Let me know in the comments, and keep calm and Dada on. Go green!